The smoke had not cleared from the last crater when he stepped off his broken shuttle. Ethan Kane was not a soldier. He wasn't trained for war. He was a deep explorer from Earth, trained to study ancient ruins, scan life forms, and record forgotten languages. But this time he had landed in the middle of something that wasn't listed in any report. The planet was called Vare Prime, once home to a peaceful species known as the Lirol. Ethan's mission had nothing to do with them. His ship had crash-landed here after a meteor storm shredded half his navigation system. There was no response from command. He was stranded, and the planet didn't seem friendly. Within hours of setting up camp near the forest edge, he heard it. A strange cry. Not a beast's roar. Not a call of danger. It sounded like a child. His instincts told him to stay inside. But something else, something stronger, pushed him to follow the sound. He grabbed a scanner and flashlight and stepped into the dark woods, unsure what waited ahead. The trees pulsed with bioluminescent vines. The forest was alive, breathing slowly, and then near a large glowing root he found her, a small alien child no older than 5 or 6 in human years. Her skin was a soft blue. Her hair burned like fire, deep red, tangled with ash. Her eyes glowed bright amber. She was hurt, her arm bleeding, her clothes torn, and she looked terrified. Ethan dropped to one knee, hands raised slowly. The child didn't run. She only watched him, her breath shaky. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said quietly. She blinked, then collapsed forward. He rushed to catch her. Carrying her back to the camp, he wrapped her arm gently and cleaned her wounds. She barely stirred. The scanner didn't recognize her species fully, but the data matched the Lirol, a species long thought extinct after the last galactic war. If she was alive, there were more. And if there were more, someone would come looking. He didn't sleep that night. He kept checking her vitals, her breathing. He gave her water. She drank weakly. She didn't speak, but her eyes never left him. In the early hours of the next day, something changed. The temperature dropped. The air grew tight. His sensors lit up. Something had entered orbit. He stepped outside and looked up. A silver shadow moved across the clouds like a bird of war. The scanner screamed warnings, energy spikes, radar disruption, cloaked engines. Not human tech. Inside the camp, the child sat up slowly. She looked up at the sky and whispered one word in her native tongue. He couldn't understand it, but he knew what it meant. They had come. Not to rescue, to reclaim, maybe even to destroy. Ethan grabbed his emergency gear and checked the child's bandages. He had to move. The signal from the crash might have drawn them. If they found him with the child, things would go bad fast. He didn't know if they were enemies or family. He didn't know if this child was lost or stolen. All he knew was she was afraid, and he couldn't just leave her. As the sky rumbled and distant lights blinked between the clouds, Ethan Kane made a choice. He would run. With the child in his arms and danger above, he vanished into the alien forest, unaware that the most feared mother in the galaxy had already locked onto their trail. Ethan moved through the glowing underbrush with the child nestled against his chest. Every step was careful, every breath slow. The forest responded to his presence. Leaves shifted, light dimmed, as if watching him. He had never seen a planet so alive. And yet, it was deathly silent. The child hadn't spoken since that one word, she whispered. Her eyes scanned the skies. Her grip on his jacket tightened every time a distant rumble echoed above. Ethan didn't need a translator to feel her fear. Who was after her? Pirates? Military? A rival alien clan? He reached an abandoned outpost half covered in moss and vines. Its satellite dish was broken, but the walls still stood. It would do for shelter, at least for now. Inside, he laid her down on a padded bench and tried again. "I don't know your name," he said softly. "Can you tell me?" She didn't answer. He pulled out a protein bar and broke it in half. He offered it to her. After a pause, she reached out slowly and took it. That was a start. Suddenly, the building's emergency lights flickered. A sharp pulse hit the air, a ping from an orbital scanner. Someone was sweeping the forest with precision. Tech. He looked at the child. Her body trembled. Not from cold, but recognition. Whoever was looking for her wasn't just powerful. They were terrifying. Above them, cutting through the clouds like a blade, a sleek alien ship descended. It bore the mark of the Liral royal crest, a.k.a. sun wrapped in roots. Long ago, the Liral had ruled 7 systems, but they vanished after their queen was wounded in war. Whispers spoke of a blood mother who lost her child and burned entire moons searching for her. Most believed it was just a legend. Until now. Inside that ship, Queen Syraxa stood before her war room's hollow map. Her skin was cracked with glowing veins, her armor etched with ancient runes. Her eyes blazed with rage and sorrow. She had felt the blood spark, the sign her child was alive. She hadn't slept in 3 cycles. Her scouts had followed the wreckage of an Earthship, tracing the humans' path through the woods. She didn't trust humans. One had taken everything from her. This one wouldn't get far. Back in the outpost, Ethan gathered supplies. He couldn't. Stay still. Not with that ship so close. The child, who now sat up with eyes wide, finally whispered, "Nyara." He paused. "Is that your name?" She nodded once. "Okay, Nyara," he said gently. "I'm Ethan. We'll be all right. I promise." She pointed to the map on his wrist pad, then to the mountains in the distance. Her tiny finger trembled. "Safe. There," she said quietly. It was the first time she'd spoken in English. Ethan didn't ask how she knew the language. He just nodded. Outside, the sound of engines drew closer. Trees began to bend as landing crafts approached. He held her close and sprinted into the glowing forest again. Behind him, drones scanned the ground. The Queen's forces closed in. But what none of them knew, not the Queen, not the hunters, not even Ethan, was that something ancient slept in the mountains, something even the Queen had forgotten, and that Nyara's bond with Ethan would awaken. The wind howled through the towering trees as Ethan climbed higher into the mountains, Nyara holding tightly to his back. Her small arms wrapped around his neck, her breathing shallow. The path was steep, the rocks sharp, but he didn't slow down. Behind them, the distant roar of engines faded into silence. The Queen's forces hadn't found them yet, but they were close. Ethan didn't know what waited in the mountains. He only trusted Nyara's voice, the way she had pointed to this place like she knew it deeply, like something within her remembered it. They reached a cliffside just as the first sun broke through the clouds. Below them, the forest stretched like a glowing ocean, but ahead, built into the cliffside, was something extraordinary, an ancient temple, overgrown with vines and moss. Alien carvings shimmered across its surface, reacting to Nyara's presence. As soon as she stepped near, the stone door creaked. Open. Ethan's jaw dropped. "You've been here before, haven't you?" he whispered. Nyara didn't answer. She simply walked inside. The air changed. It grew warm, almost gentle. The temple walls glowed softly with golden light. Carvings of Liral queens and warriors lined the corridor, and at the center stood a tall crystal archway, cracked but humming with energy. Nyara approached it and placed her small hand on the quiet stone. Suddenly, the entire room lit up. Images filled the walls, memories, recordings, echoes of voices. Ethan watched in awe as scenes from Nyara's past unfolded. A palace in flames. Her mother screaming her name, soldiers carrying her away into the shadows. A deep space escape pod. Silence. Ethan turned to her. "That woman. That's your mother, isn't it?" Nyara nodded. "Syraxa." He felt his chest tighten. The blood mother. The one the galaxy feared. The one burning through worlds to find her. And now Ethan had her daughter. In orbit, Queen Syraxa watched the newest scans from her warship's bridge. Her scouts had found the outpost. Traces of a child's blood. Human DNA. She clenched her fists until her palms bled. He took her, she whispered. Shall we destroy the valley, my queen? Her general asked. Syraxa's eyes burned. No, he's clever. And she is near. I can feel it. She walked to the edge of the war map, placed her palm on the console, and whispered an ancient phrase. A dormant beacon awakened, one tied to the royal bloodline. Back in the temple, Niara gasped and stumbled back from the crystal archway. Ethan caught her. What is it? Her eyes shimmered. She's here. She's calling. A sound echoed through the mountains, a deep, haunting chime. Ethan looked out through a crack in the temple wall. In the sky, the Queen's ship had lowered. A signal tower had been activated. A pulse moved through the air, vibrating the very rocks beneath them. They're locking onto you, Ethan said. She's tracking you by your blood. Niara looked up at him, afraid. I don't want to go. Ethan crouched down. Then we won't let her take you. But she's my mother. Ethan didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, and I think she loves you more than anything, but love and fear don't always move in the same direction. The temple walls shifted. A hidden door opened behind the crystal arch. Inside was a chamber filled with ancient Lyral tech, survival pods, cloaks, weapons too advanced for Ethan to understand. And at the center, a large stasis shell, just big enough for a child. It had been made for Niara. Someone tried to save you, Ethan whispered. Niara reached out and touched the shell. It blinked to life and displayed her name in glowing letters. I was hidden, she said. From war. Ethan looked at her, then at the temple around them. This place wasn't just a ruin. It was her sanctuary, and if the Queen came for her here, it would also be the battlefield. Night came fast in the mountains. The air grew colder, and the stars, above, flickered like silent watchers. Inside the ancient temple, Ethan sat by the entrance, holding a small energy blade taken from the inner chamber. He didn't know how to use it well, but he knew one thing. It was sharp. Niara rested on a bed of moss and cloth he had laid out. Her body still trembled from the blood signal, but her breathing was steady now. She hadn't spoken since the chamber had opened. Ethan stared out into the dark. He couldn't see anything, but he could feel it. They were coming. He heard the hum before he saw the glow. Quiet as mist, a scouting drone floated past the trees below. Its lights pulsed softly, scanning the forest floor. He leaned back into the shadows, not daring to breathe. Suddenly, Niara stirred. Her eyes snapped open. She's near. Ethan turned. You feel her again? Niara nodded slowly. She's angry, but she's scared too. That surprised him. He had imagined Queen Syraxa as a monster, ruthless, merciless. But fear? That was something he hadn't expected. Not from her. Maybe she wasn't hunting with rage alone. Maybe it was desperation. Down below, movement began. Dozens of lights flickered in the trees. Drop units. Soldiers. They weren't waiting anymore. Niara, Ethan said, kneeling beside her. You can hide in that chamber again. You'll be safe there. I can distract them, lead them away. She shook her head. If you go, they'll kill you. He smiled faintly. That's a risk I'm used to. You don't have to protect me, she whispered. He looked at her seriously. Yes, I do. He stood and grabbed the beacon transmitter from his pack. It was old tech, Earth-based, but he'd tuned it to mimic other signals. He tapped in a code that would make it pulse like a decoy, mimicking Niara's blood signal. Then he threw it down the cliffside with all his strength. The moment it hit the rocks, it activated, pulsing like a heartbeat. Below, the Queen's forces reacted immediately. They rushed toward the cliff base, weapons ready. In orbit, Queen Syraxa's eyes narrowed. That signal's not her, she whispered. She could feel it. Her daughter was close, but not there. Pull back the scouts. Focus. On the mountaintop. She stepped away from her officers and walked alone to the center of the warship. There she stood before a chamber that pulsed with soft energy. Inside was her old armor, the one she wore the day her child disappeared. She placed her hand on, the glass. "I will not lose you again," she whispered. Back in the temple, Ethan helped Niara pack a small satchel. Food, water, one of the ancient cloaks that shimmered to blend into the environment. They both turned toward the hidden passage that led deeper into the mountain. But before they could enter, the temple door exploded. A wave of force threw Ethan to the ground. Dust filled the air. He coughed, eyes burning. Through the haze, figures stepped inside. Tall, armored, moving with precision. Liral elite. One of them raised a weapon. "Stay down," Ethan shouted, shielding Niara. A moment passed. Then the figure froze. Its visor blinked red, its weapon lowered. A voice came through its helmet. Harsh, commanding. "Do not harm the human. Bring the child." Ethan stood slowly, fists clenched. "You're not taking her." The soldier tilted its head. "She is royal property." "She is not property," Ethan growled. "She's a child." Before the soldier could respond, a new presence entered the room. Even the guard stepped back. She didn't walk. She glided like shadow and flame. Her armor crackled with energy. Her eyes burned like suns. Queen Syraxa had arrived, and she had come for her daughter. Ethan's heart pounded as Queen Syraxa stepped into the chamber. She was unlike anything he had seen, tall and fierce, with a presence that made the air feel heavier. Her armor gleamed with glowing veins, and the room itself seemed to quiet in her presence. Even the ancient carvings on the walls flickered softly, as if recognizing her return. Niara pressed closer to Ethan's side, her eyes wide. The queen stopped, just a few steps away, her eyes, blazing gold, locked on the child. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Syraxa spoke. "You are mine." Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried the weight of a mother who had torn galaxies apart. She took a step forward. Niara clutched Ethan's hand tighter. "She doesn't want to go," Ethan said firmly. Syraxa's eyes turned toward him, unreadable. "You are a human," she said. "A species of violence and greed. Why would she choose you?" "I didn't choose this," Ethan replied. "She came to me injured and afraid. I helped her, I protected her when no one else did. She would not need protecting if she were not taken." Ethan blinked. "You think I took her? You think I do not recognize your tech?" "The Queen said coldly. "That I do not know the kind of species you are. My child was hidden after war. She vanished. And then suddenly a human crashes on the last Liral world, with her in his arms." She raised her hand and the guard stepped forward. Ethan pulled Niara behind him. "I won't let you take her." Syraxa paused. Then she looked past him, at her daughter. "Niara," she said more softly. "Do you know who I am?" Niara's voice trembled. "You're my mother." The queen's face softened for just a moment. "Then come to me," she said. "Let me hold you. I've searched every star for you." Niara took one step forward, then another. But she didn't let go of Ethan's hand. "I don't remember you," she whispered. "But I remember him. He made me feel safe." Syraxa's expression twisted, not with anger but pain. "I am your blood," she said. "He is nothing." "I don't care about blood," Niara replied. "I care about who stayed." The queen's hands curled into fists. The guards raised their weapons again. Ethan stood his ground. "She's not a symbol," he said. "She's not a legacy. She's just a scared little girl, and you're frightening her." "You dare speak to me of fear?" Syraxa said, her voice rising. She stepped forward, her armor glowing with rising power. Ethan didn't back away. "I dare," he said quietly, "because I've seen what fear looks like. And it's not in your armor or your ships. It's in her eyes right now." That stopped her. She looked at Niara again, really looked, and saw the tears gathering in her daughter's eyes. Her hand slowly lowered. "She doesn't trust me," Syraxa whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. Ethan said nothing. Came with armies, the queen said. With power, with fire, but all she needed was a hand to hold. Silence filled the chamber. Then Saraxa did something no one expected. She removed her helmet. Her long hair fell across her shoulders. Her face was scarred, tired, and older than the legends had told. But her eyes were still the same golden light, filled with pain, love, and regret. She knelt. I am sorry, she said. Nyara took a shaky step forward. Ethan watched, holding his breath. But before mother and daughter could meet, the temple shook violently. A new alarm echoed through the walls. Something massive was approaching, something ancient and awake. Deep beneath the mountain, an old guardian had sensed a threat to the royal bloodline, and it was rising. The ground split with a deep, echoing roar. Ethan stumbled as dust rained from the ceiling. The temple's walls lit up with lines of pulsing energy. Old tech waking from slumber. The symbols flickered faster, responding to Nyara's presence, and to the tension between mother and protector. What is that? Ethan shouted. Saraxa stood slowly, her eyes wide with disbelief. It's the guardian. Nyara looked between them, confused. What's a guardian? Saraxa moved toward her quickly and knelt. Long ago, before the Leerall fell, our kings and queens hid weapons beneath sacred grounds, not to conquer but to protect the bloodline. She looked at Ethan. When the blood feels threatened, the guardian rises. But we're not fighting, Ethan said. You stopped. The guardian does not care, Saraxa replied. It only understands risk. A heavy groan echoed through the mountain. Then the floor beneath the temple cracked open. From deep below, something massive began to rise. At first, it was only a shape in the dust, then a towering figure of black obsidian metal etched with glowing lines. Its head resembled an ancient beast, 4 glowing eyes blinking in sequence. Its limbs were jagged, armored, and humming with energy. The guardian's presence pushed the air out of the room like a pressure wave. It looked down at Nyara. Then it scanned Saraxa, and finally it turned toward Ethan. Target acquired. A beam of light shot forward. Ethan barely rolled aside as the energy sliced through the wall behind him. Run! He yelled, grabbing Nyara's hand. Saraxa stepped between them and the machine. Guardian, she commanded. Stand down. I am Saraxa, of royal blood. In the machine paused, but only for a second. Then it scanned her again and responded with a mechanical growl. Threat level, uncertain. Bloodline divided. Conflict unresolved. It raised its arm again. This time, Saraxa didn't move. She held her ground. I am her mother, she said, loud and clear. I have made mistakes, but I will not fight this man. She turned to Ethan, voice strong. Will you do the same? Ethan breathed hard, standing behind a broken pillar. If I wanted to hurt her, I would have left long ago. Then prove it, Saraxa said. Both of us. Together. She reached out and took Ethan's hand. Nyara stepped between them, placing her hands on theirs. The guardian blinked. 3 identities confirmed. Blood bond restored. The lights on its arms faded. Its body lowered slowly, returning to a dormant stance. Then it collapsed into the earth, sinking back into the floor. Silence returned. Ethan didn't move for a long time. Then he turned to Saraxa. Was that supposed to happen? She let out a small laugh, the first sign of warmth he'd seen from her. No, she said. That was unexpected. Nyara looked at both of them. You didn't run. You held on. Ethan smiled. Sometimes, holding on is the hardest thing to do. Saraxa looked at him, thoughtful. You're not like the humans I knew. I'm just one man, Ethan said. And she needed someone. The queen nodded slowly. She still does. For the first time, Ethan noticed the pain in her voice wasn't just from the past. It was still there. Raw, sharp, and fresh. Will you take her? He asked. Saraxa didn't answer right away. I want to, she whispered. But she doesn't trust me yet. She turned to her daughter. What do you want, Niara? The girl looked at both of them, and for the first time, she didn't look afraid. She said, I want both. The temple had grown quiet again, as if it too was listening. Ethan stood beside Saraxa, still catching his breath. Niara held both their hands, her small frame standing between the two most unlikely people in the galaxy. The Guardian had vanished beneath the floor, but the echo of its power still pulsed in the stone. Saraxa studied her daughter's face, her own expression unreadable. For the first time in years, the Queen didn't feel like a ruler, a warrior, or a legend. She felt like a mother trying to make up for lost time. We can't stay here, Ethan said, voice low. Your forces will keep searching, and now that the Guardians activated, others will come. Saraxa nodded. The blood spark was felt across systems. My enemies will know she's alive. Then we leave, Ethan said. Not yet. Saraxa replied. She walked toward the center of the chamber. With a motion of her hand, the wall opened to reveal a hidden alcove, filled with ancient scrolls, floating maps, and a single device pulsing with blue light. This, she said, pointing. At the device was the last beacon of the Liral's peace treaty. Before the war, Ethan stepped closer. And you kept it here? It was meant for the one who would unite us again, Saraxa said. Someone with strength, but also heart. She looked at her daughter. She is the last true heir. Niara blinked. I don't want to be a queen. Saraxa knelt. Then be what they never let me be. Free. Outside the temple, movement stirred in the trees. Liral scouts sent earlier had returned and were closing in on the mountaintop. Ethan checked his scanner. We have less than 20 minutes before your soldiers breach the ridge. They won't harm us, Saraxa said. Not unless they think I'm still a threat, Ethan replied. And they probably do. Saraxa raised her wrist and activated a signal. Back on the warship, her command officers received the order. Stand down. Do not engage. She turned to Ethan. You've risked your life for her again and again. Why? He looked at Niara. Because she was alone. And I've known what that feels like. Saraxa's eyes softened. So have I. She walked to a side chamber and returned holding a thin silver necklace glowing with ancient runes. She handed it to Niara. This belonged to my mother, and her mother before her. It is not a crown. It is a key, one that only responds to the wearer's heart. Niara hesitated, then took it. The moment it touched her skin, the entire temple pulsed with golden light. Ethan and Saraxa stepped back in awe. It chose her, the Queen whispered. Niara looked overwhelmed. What do I do now? Saraxa knelt again. You decide your own future. I will no longer command it. Ethan stepped forward. And I'll walk with you, if you want me to. Niara smiled for the first time since he found her in the woods. I want both of you. From outside, the hum of approaching aircraft echoed louder. Saraxa tapped her communicator. Tell the ships to prepare for a royal escort. Then she looked at Ethan. I can offer her safety, education, a future. I can offer her something else, he said. A quiet life, a chance to be a child. Maybe, Saraxa said. She doesn't have to choose. They stood in silence, the three of them. Warrior, explorer, child. The past had chased them to this place. But the future waited just beyond the next ridge. The morning light crept through the cracks in the stone temple, painting the walls in soft golden hues. Ethan stood beside the doorway, watching the valley below. Liral's ships hovered silently above the forest canopy, no longer hunting, just waiting. He couldn't believe it was over. Behind him, Niara sat between him and Queen, Saraxa studying the glowing necklace in her hands. Its warmth pulsed softly, no longer heavy, no longer a burden. She wasn't just a lost child now. She was someone with two paths, and the freedom to walk either, or both. Saraxa watched her daughter closely, her usual armor of silence stripped away. Her gaze held the weight of centuries, but also something new. Hope. She is stronger than I ever was at her age, Saraxa said quietly. Ethan nodded. She's been through too much to be anything else. Niara looked up at them, eyes glowing bright. I don't want to stay here. Saraxa gave a slight nod. We won't. The temple was no longer a hiding place. It had served its purpose. The guardian had returned to slumber. The past had spoken. It was time to leave it behind. As they stepped outside, a group of Lyral guards waited near the ridge. They didn't move, didn't raise weapons. Their eyes lowered respectfully when Saraxa passed. One even dropped to one. As Niara approached, she stopped. I'm not a queen, she said softly. The soldier looked up. You are more than that, my lady. You are the light they feared was lost. Ethan glanced at Saraxa, unsure if Niara was ready for such words. But the queen simply smiled. They walked toward the ship together. The boarding ramp lowered with a soft hiss. The interior glowed with calming blue light. It was nothing like the warship Ethan had imagined. It felt peaceful, safe. Saraxa paused before entering and turned to Ethan. You could return to Earth. We would make sure you're compensated, protected. Ethan looked at Niara, who was now waiting at the top of the ramp. She's not someone I can leave behind. Saraxa studied him. You'd follow her into a life of exile, war, peace treaties, a throne she may never accept? Ethan shrugged. I followed her through a haunted forest, ancient death machine, and your royal temper. I think I'm ready for whatever's next. The queen laughed, a genuine, tired, and grateful laugh. Very well, human, she said. You're coming. With us. They stepped aboard together. As the ship rose into the clouds, Niara stood at the observation window. Stars stretched ahead, planets waiting to be visited, histories waiting to be rewritten. She took Ethan's hand in one and Saraxa's hand in the other. And for the first time since she had opened her eyes in that forest, she wasn't afraid. She was home. Not because of where she was, but because of who was with her. Somewhere in the stars, new threats would rise. Old enemies would whisper, and legends would follow her every step. But she would face them not as a lost child, not as a lonely heir, but as a daughter protected by both blood and bond.